we got here? Eggs. More eggs. And more eggs. All right. This very well could be the last coho trip of the year. Yeah, it's getting close. The numbers are very low right now. Last week there was only 2,500 or something like that come across the separator. It was 2 weeks ago, it was over 9,000. So besides, I got late season archery. I spent 2 hours in the tree stand this morning. A couple hours in the tree stand last night. Didn't see a dang thing. But I'm gonna go out here and try to catch a fish during the day here, and then come back with enough time to get something to eat, and then get back out in the tree stand. That's my plan for today. Wish me luck. Later on in the video, I'm going to show you how I set up my float rod. So stay tuned, and we'll get to that a little later on. Oh man, what would life be if you didn't screw up every now and then? I forgot to put the plug in. Oh, the boat is filling up with water. Luckily, I haven't disconnected it completely yet. Shoot. I usually don't take the plug out of the boat. Oh, look at that. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's a lot of water. Yeah. Supposed to be a plug in there. Okay. That's better. Okay, we're finally ready to go. Got the plug in the boat. Motor's started and warmed up. And I get ready to go upriver, and I realize I don't have any rods in my boat other than the 2 back bouncing rods that I have in here. So I had to beach the boat and go up there and get my rods. But hey, like I said, if you don't forget something now and then, you know, if everything goes perfect, what kind of adventure would that be? Alright. Now that I got the plugs in the boat, or the plug in the boat, rods in the boat, there we go. All right, so the plan today is to run up to the island to see if I can fish it. If not, bobber dog a couple drifts, and then head down river if that doesn't work out. So let's go. These guys got one on right there. All right. Boats up here today. Probably, I don't know, 8 guys on the island, no space. That's okay. But I came down here, and let me see if I can find something down here. I like fishing where there's a lot of fish, but I'd rather fish all day long by myself and catch one and enjoy the peace and quiet and solitude than to go up on combat fish with a bunch of people. and catch a bunch of fish. For me, it's not about catching a lot of fish. Sure, it's nice to catch fish, but it's about being out here. I mean, who gets to enjoy this kind of stuff, you know, as much as we do, as much as I do? Not that many people. And so I'm just glad you're here to share it with me, and I'm glad I'm able to share it with you. So let's get to it. Let's see if we can. I'm gonna do 5 casts with the twitching jig. And since I have this one on, I'm gonna leave that guy. I'm gonna leave that guy on there. This guy right here. We're gonna leave him on there. Weeds and all. Just kidding. We'll give it 5 casts, and then I'll float some eggs. See what I can do with some eggs. So it's probably not likely that everybody who views these videos watches all of the videos, which is understandable. I do the same thing when I peruse videos on YouTube. But if you had seen the video where I explain why I use mono and why I twitch the way I do, I'll explain it. Okay, let me do it again. So you see a lot of people twitching here to here, here to here. So parallel with the river to about this direction, then collecting the line. Parallel to this direction, collecting the line. They do that because they're using braid. And if you twitch the way I do with braid, you will run into all kinds of tangles because it's so limber and limp, it'll fly around in the air and get tangled in your tip. Trust me, I know from experience. So when you see guys doing this, it's because they don't want to tangle their tip, not because it's providing the best action on the jig, in my opinion. In my opinion, the best action on the jig is as vertical a retrieve as you can get, and as vertical a retrieve or a descent as you can get. And so if you can somehow figure out a way to get that jig to retrieve up and then descend straight down while you're retrieving it from left to right or right to left back to yourself after a cast, then you've got the best twitching action you can get, the best jigging action you can get. But that doesn't happen because you are retrieving from point A to point B. So the jig is always going to have some kind of lateral movement and then a vertical descent. So I do not start here. Ooh, I heard a fish jump. Oh, right there. Fish just jumped right there. So what I do is I keep my rod tip high, retrieve high. That way I'm getting the jig to twitch and retrieve as vertical as possible. And I use mono so I don't have to worry about tangles wrapping on the rod tip. So from here up, I twitch high. If you do this with braid, you will have problems with your tip. I mean, you can, and this is what I've done for a while, because I used to use braid, but what I would do is on the retrieve, I'd give it a loop. Give it a loop, like this. Up and then loop. Up and then loop. That way you're always in control of the line not wrapping around the tip of your rod. It's kind of goofy. It takes a little bit to get used to. Oh, another fish jump. Okay. That's 2 fish, and I've only been here for, what, 2 minutes? Okay, so this is cast number 3. Anyway, so that's the reason why I twitch the way I do and the reason why I use mono when I twitch jigs. And as I've said before in other videos, I'm just going to show you and tell you what I do and the reasons why I do what I do. And you can decide whether or not you want to, emulate that or replicate that for yourself. We're going to give it a 1 Mississippi, a 2 Mississippi, a 3 Mississippi. One right there. I don't do anything fancy with these. I don't use a snap swivel. I tie straight to the jig head. And I don't use any fancy knot. It's just a fisherman's knot. Clinch knot, I believe is what they call it. 7 or 8 wraps. Slip it through. Whoops. 7 or 8 wraps. Slip it through. Pull her tight. Clip it off. And there you go. This, I believe, is a 3/8 ounce. Do the same thing. Start here. Do 6 casts across with this chartreuse one. And the funny thing about all this is if I wasn't recording this and making videos, I'd still be yammering on. My dad, my late dad I should say, passed away 3 years ago now. And that man was a fisherman. That dude, that's where I learned all my fishing and hunting techniques from him. Most of them I should say. But he always had something to say. And he was always talking to himself. And I'll never forget the one day when he told me why he did that. He said he talks to himself because it's the only way he can carry on an intelligent conversation. My dad was a master smartass. I really miss him too. He was my fishing partner for my entire life. Died at 93. Led a really good life. Retired military. We traveled all over the world when I was a kid. Settled in Washington State in Tacoma. And retired out of Fort Lewis. I'm surprised I haven't caught a fish yet. I really am. Oh. Morning.
How are you?
Good. Looks like we got a visitor.
I just wanted to come up and tell you thank you for your videos.
Oh, okay.
We've been trying to learn the cowlings. And we just came out here and started, messing around and
Yeah?
trying not to hit bottom too much.
Yeah?
And your videos gave us a little more confidence.
Oh, as far as running the river?
Yeah, well, running it, fishing it,
Yeah.
just seeing the spots where you were at and stuff.
Right.
And you don't talk to me.
Oh, good.
Just enough.
Well, looks like you have one.
Yeah, we got one. A little colored up, but it'll work.
Good.
How
Good.
you doing?
I'm doing good.
My name's David, by the way.
David, Gene.
Gene, nice to meet you. This is Tucker.
Hello there.
This is our buddy Katie. All right, Gene, have a wonderful day.
Yeah, there's like 4 boats up there right now. Got a float coming my way. I'll put that with my collection of floats. Okay, well, that is totally disgusting. Oh, I snagged a rotten fish. Well, at least I know I'm down there on the bottom where I should be. Oh, look at that thing. Before we put the boat away, I wanted to explain to you and show you how I set up my float gear. So let me go get the float rod and I'll be right back. Let's get this thing adjusted just right here, okay? So you can see as well as I can. So, my float rod. My float rod is an old rod that has been repaired a couple times, and if I had the chance to, let me turn this over, if I had the chance to buy another float rod, which I probably will here very shortly, I would not buy this one again, but it's been good for me for probably 10 years at least. It's a Berkeley Air, and and hopefully you can see it there. It's a Berkeley Air 10'9" medium light spinning rod, 6 to 10. So it's a light rod and it's long. And the reason why I like this for my float rod is because now remember, I'm going to say this again. I do these things because it's what I feel works best for me. If you find a nugget of information that you may be able to apply to yourself and how you fish, I wish you all the best. But I'm not going to tell you the best way to do anything. I'm going to tell you the reasons why I do what I do. Because there are so many different variations in everything related to fishing, whether it's gear, presentation, tackle, bait, cure, no matter what it is. There are so many different variations that I could sit here for days and tell you what I think, but you don't want to hear that, and I don't want to do it. So anyway, I like the light long rod, number one, because it gives you the opportunity to mend your line easily. Simply raise your rod up, and you have 10 feet, of elevation on your line. I also believe that when you set your hook with a longer rod and a more limber rod, you get a slower, more gentle hook set. And I like that slower, gentle hook set when I'm fishing with bait, because what happens is the salmon will come up and they'll suck up like a bass. They'll suck up that egg and it'll go in their mouth. And if you set the hook too fast and they don't chomp down on it, you could actually pull the hook right out of their mouth, especially with these small number 4 hooks that I use. And so I like to give them a couple of head shakes, couple of chomps on that bait before I set the hook, and I set it slow. I don't set it hard. I'll just raise my rod tip up and do it like that. And I think that helps with having a longer, more limber rod. It doesn't give you that immediately snap that you get. And also, I also use a top shot. Oh, well, hold on. Let me get to the reel. The reel, Shimano, nothing fancy, and it's starting to rain. 30-pound high vis Power Pro. I don't go any heavier than that. I don't think there's any need to. 30 pounds is plenty. And I like the high vis because when you're mending your rod, oh, that's probably in your face, isn't it? I like the high vis because when you're mending your rod, you're able to see where the line is, how it lays down on the water, and high vis will lay really good on the surface. I like to use the high vis line because it's easier for me to see on the water. When I'm mending the line and when I'm fishing, I can see it easily, and the people that I'm fishing with can see it easily as well, so it helps them know where I'm fishing. I put a 20-foot, 20-pound test monofilament, where's it at? Top Shot. Here's the Top Shot knot. This one here is an FG knot, but I use the FG or the double uni knot. Both of those work good. And there's a reason why I use the Top Shot on here, and I don't let that braid go all the way down to the snap swivel here, where the leader is. Okay, so we have 30-pound braid, 20-pound test Top Shot, down to just a clinch knot on the snap swivel here. So the reason I use a Top Shot here is because I use high vis line. Now, if you're using a moss green Power Pro and going down to the swivel right here, then you don't have any problem with it scaring the fish or spooking the fish. I use the high vis, and I don't want that high vis down where the bait is or anywhere close to where the bait is. So sometimes I'll fish in holes that are 20 feet deep, and the last thing I want is that high vis running down there, to where anywhere near close to where my eggs are. And so that's why I use the Top Shot. I also believe when you set the hook, the little bit of, or the action of the rod that you get plus the stretch in the mono gives you a lighter hook set on the eggs. So you get actually a better hook set with the eggs when you have a Top Shot because of the stretch. Okay, so let's see here. Let's go down. So I have the 20-foot Top Shot, and then I put a bobber stopper. These are the Bomac bobber stoppers. These are the Bomac bobber stoppers, and these work really well. They're a little bit hard to see as opposed to the other ones, that are the nylon string type. But I'm starting to use these because I like them. They stick really good on the monofilament, especially when it's 20 pounds or more. So then I have a bead that stops here. Oh gosh, let me get this in the right place. Let me do that. Let me get it in the right place for you. Then I have from here, I have a bead. The bead acts as a bumper up against the rubber Bomac bobber stopper. I also put a corky on the top because when this thing floats up to the surface, it's just easier for me to see. When this is floating down the river, that corky ends up at the top here. Actually, it ends up like this at the top here, and it's just easier for me to see. Just like that. Okay, then I come down here to another bead. This bead here is just a bumper for the weight. That ends up doing that a lot. So I use a sliding weight. It's an egg weight, I think is what they call these. An egg weight slides back and forth. Just like that. Acts as a bumper. And as you can tell, I have another one down here. And as you can tell, I have another bobber stopper down here at the bottom. Now why do I have that one there? It acts as a bumper. People put beads down here to protect your knot. The bead protects the knot, right? Well, what's protecting the knot from the bead? Well, the Bomac rubber bobber stopper is. So this is here like that. That way, if the knot breaks, you don't lose your setup, and it also acts as a bumper against the knot. And as you can see, it's pretty bouncy. Boom. See that? Boom. Rubber bumper. Rubber baby buggy bumpers. Okay, same with down here. See how that weight bounces? And it doesn't even touch your knot. That bead doesn't even touch the knot. Okay, so from there, I will use some fluorocarbon. And this leader here is only about 22 inches long. So when this is floating upright, and your egg is floating around like this, there's only about 20 inches of space at any given time. That's why I don't want the high vis down here at the bobber. Me and a couple buddies of mine were fishing the Satsip, and it was a really deep hole. I knew it was a deep hole, and I kept putting it down 2 feet, 2 feet, 2 feet at a time, and I ended up 20 feet down in this small hole on this corner that tailed out, and I got a hit at about 12 feet, and I lost that fish, so I kept going down further and further and further, and I was down about 20 feet, and I nailed this beautiful chrome coho on eggs, and that fish came from the Satsip. So that's the reason why I want to use a 20-foot bumper, because I never know what type of hole I'm going to be fishing in, whether it's going to be a deep hole or a shallow hole, and I don't want that high vis line getting in the way. Just to recap, I'll move everything down. I'll move this top bobber stopper down so you can see how the entire thing is set up. I'll move it all, squish it all the way down. Okay, here it is. 30-foot braid, FG knot or a double uni knot, 20-pound test, 20-foot top shot. Then we have a Bomac rubber bobber stopper, a bead, and a corky. Half ounce float, a bead, a weight that slides, another bead and another bobber stopper, and then a knot, swivel, another knot, and then the fluorocarbon down to a number 4. I use number 4 for Chinook and coho, and I'll go a little smaller with a number 6 for with steelhead, and an egg loop. Now with the eggs and this about half ounce weight, actually this is a little more than a quarter ounce. It's about 3/8 ounce. We end up with about just enough weight, to make this float, act properly. And that right there is how I set up and why I set up my float rod the way I do. So I hope you garnered a little bit of information from this. Maybe you can apply some of this, to your setup. If you do, I hope you catch some fish. And even though we didn't catch anything today, worth keeping, we foul hooked a couple of fish. That's just the way fishing goes. Sometimes you catch fish and sometimes you don't. I hope that my videos show you the reality of fishing. Sometimes you go out there, sometimes you catch fish and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you can hit the river or a lake or any place, and catch fish right off the bat. Sometimes you have to work for them. It really depends on the conditions and whether or not the fish are in the river, especially when we're talking about rivers. Because during certain times of the year, there are literally no fish in this river. There are no steelhead, there are no salmon, there may be some trout, the occasional, there's always whitefish, but there's always trout and whitefish. But at certain times, there may not be very many salmon or steelhead, except for strays here and there in between the runs. Believe it or not, when I was a kid, now keep in mind I've lived on this river for a long time, and when I was a kid, this thing was teeming. Excuse me. This river used to be full of a wide variety of fish. Not only the salmon and big trout, real big trout. There used to be eels, freshwater eels. There's still a lot of crawfish in here. Crayfish, crawfish, what do you call them? I call them crawfish. There used to be, so I remember fishing here, right off the bank, right here, and catching eels, because eels always would wrap up around my gear, especially when I used any kind of a bait. They would wrap up and just twist all my line up, and I'd have to, cut my line and re-rig all the time because there were so many freshwater eels in the river. I haven't seen one in 30 years. I don't think they're here anymore, because I fish this river a lot and I've never seen one for a long time. So thanks for watching. I hope you got some good information, and until next time. Oh, I wanted to mention, every single time I go on the river, I meet somebody that's watching the channel, and so I think that's really cool. I've been fishing this river forever, and I just started making videos about 3 or 4 months ago. I did post a couple of videos on YouTube that were from tuna fishing and salmon fishing that were kind of cheesy, and they're really hard to watch because I had these glasses, and every time my video glasses, and every time I moved my head, just felt like you were on a carnival ride or a Ferris ride. Ferris ride? What the hell is a Ferris ride? So those videos are not very easy to watch. They're difficult for me, and I think there's still a couple of them on the channel. But I'm gonna leave them there because it's kind of a transition between from when I started making videos until now. And of course, I'm improving on the video quality and my narration and my storytelling and all that other stuff. So hopefully you guys are enjoying these videos. I'll try to do a better job to keep you engaged a little bit better. If there's anything that you think that you want to know or see or hear or whatever, just let me know. Put it in the comment section. I'd appreciate it. And subscribe and hit the like button on these videos if you like watching. So I hope you find some of these videos entertaining, and I hope you get some information out of them that you can use for yourself. So until next time, peace. Peace. Peace? Peace.